How's everyone doing? Loving DerbyCon? Yeah. Anyone here for your first DerbyCon? Sweet! Congratulations. All right, everyone, thanks for being here. I am Mike Saunders, and today we're going to talk about detecting and preventing spear phishing attacks using DNS. I know I said phishing before. I realized spear phishing might be more appropriate. All right, awesome. Hey, speaker fact, you can't advance the slides if the USB connector is not in place, right?
Hey, there we go. Right.
Hey, there we go. All right, so just a little bit about me. I've been in IT about 17 years, been in security for about 9 years. If you notice, I'm standing on ice. I have a Twitter handle, Hardwater Hacker. That is hard water. That's what we refer to that in the North Country. That is hard water. So that's where that came from. I'm currently a pen tester, but I come from a long Defender and system administration background. So what I'm talking about today, detecting and preventing phishing attacks using DNS. I'm talking about the problem of typo squatting. So how many here, I'm assuming most of you know about typo squatting. Anyone not know what typo squatting is? Awesome. Okay. So I'm talking about the kinds of typo squatting that are specifically dealing with misspelled domain names, or using like homoglyphs where you have characters that look like other characters. There's another kind of typo squatting that would be like hyphenating characters together. So like service-paypal.com or updates-microsoft.com. That's a different kind. We're not talking about that. We're dealing with the intentionally misspelled domain names.
Why is that?
Why is that bad? Greg sent this out yesterday. I thought it was appropriate. If you send it, they will click. And that's true, right? Our users are not trained, especially with these typo squatting domain names that are misspelled using homoglyphs. They're very difficult to detect when you first look at them. For some of these, as a security professional, it's even hard for us to see it on first glance. And as a result, our users don't know. They get an email, they think, totes legit, and they click on it. And now the attacker's got credentials. They might have a shell in your system. Doesn't matter how good your perimeter defense is, they're now in your network.
Obviously, a lot of motivation.
Obviously, there's a lot of motivations about typo squatting. Back in the day, it was about advertising, financial kinds of things, redirecting through ad networks, delivering malware. But then it really started getting used for phishing attacks because it's highly effective. And I have some examples of kinds of typo squatting on the screen here. Things like repeated characters, google.com with 3 O's, or things like omitted characters, amazon.com, missing an A. You also have things like missing dots. So www.microsoft.com versus www.microsoft.com. Decfon.org versus defcon.org, character swap. They also use things like making something singular or plural, or changing vowels around. There's one called homophones, which are words that sound alike, not really useful in phishing attacks. One that is very useful is homoglyphs. Again, characters that look like other characters, using an I in place of an L, or using a 1 or L in place of an I, things like that. The wrong TLD, whitehouse.com versus whitehouse.gov, right? All right, you guys know. You also have things like different country codes, swapping the TLD to be like evilcorp.cm instead of evilcorp.com. These are different kinds of typo squatting that are highly effective in phishing attacks. So I'm going to show you a couple of the examples of traditional typo squatting, right? So we have things like real-world examples. Twatter.com. This is a typo squatting for profit, we'll call it, not advertising. But how about TeslaMotors.com? It's a vowel swap, and it's advertising. You can see here, you click on these, they're ads for, they're just generating money. In the case of Microsoft, I went to Microsoft, and I ended up at store.hp.com after bouncing through a bunch of advertising networks. In the case of Lowe's with a 0, I ended up at Home Depot after bouncing through advertising networks. Now, these are your traditional kinds of typo squatting. So the question is, are we seeing these kinds of typo squatting used in real-world phishing attacks with real-world implications? The answer is absolutely yes. Things like Anthem and Primera. We all heard about them earlier this year. Very large attacks, and analysis after the fact pointed to some common actors and some common things that happened. One, there was typo squatted domains that were registered and they were used in phishing attacks. In the case of Anthem, they used to be known as WellPoint. They still run services under wellpoint.com. And there was a domain registered, we11point.com. That is a homoglyph type of typo squatting. In the case of Primera, there was the domain registered prenera.com, 2 N's. And in a lot of browsers and in a lot of email clients, depending on what font you're using, 2 N's looks very much like a single M. More recently, Care First, another Blue Cross provider, got breached. And they had Care First with an L and Care First with a 1.
Definitely happening.
So these are definitely happening in the real world with real implications, right? In this case, it didn't happen. A researcher, Paul Moore, tweeted this out. And this looks like lloydsbank.co.uk. I mean, that looks like 2 L's. I looked at it. I couldn't figure out what was wrong with it at first. Those are 2 capital I's, not 2 lowercase L's. And the only difference, if you were to put these side by side, is that the capital I is like 1 pixel heavier, right? It's just slightly wider in some fonts than the lowercase L. I don't know that you could give this to a seasoned security professional that they'd be able to tell you what's wrong with it without doing some more analysis. So typo squatting, when combined with phishing attacks, is highly effective. And as a defender, what can you do about it? Like, what tools are available to you? Well, there's URL Crazy. It was a tool written by Andrew Horton. It's a Ruby tool that's included with Kali and Backtrack. And the way it works is you give it a domain name, and it generates possible typo squatting variations for that domain, and you have some output. More recently, Marcin Ulikowski wrote a tool called DNS Twist. And it's a Python tool that does a lot of the same things. You give it a domain name, and it generates output. Now, both of these tools do one thing that you can use as a defender. They have the ability to tell you if a domain name is registered or not. So if a domain name is registered, I can run these tools, I can collect the output, and 5 days from now, I can run these tools on my domain again, and I collect the output and I diff them. And I see, are there different registrations? So if my domain's example.com, and 5 days from now I see examples.com, what does that mean? So you can do it, but it's kind of clunky, it's manual, and it's not anything that works. I mean, it's just not easy, right? So I wrote a tool, because after looking around, I didn't see anything available. So I wrote a tool called Crazy Parser, because at the time only URL Crazy existed. It's a Python tool, and it consumes the output of both DNS Twist and URL Crazy. And it will compare that against a baseline that you will set up to be able to detect, did a new domain get registered since the last time I ran the program? So that way, if an attacker is registering a domain in advance of the attack, you're going to see that registration. And you're going to have a chance to possibly at least prepare yourself. You may not be able to stop it because there's not enough time, you're not prepared, who knows what it is, but you're going to know that it's going to happen. So I'm going to show you how it works, how it's configured, and show you actually what happens. All right. So, you all can see that here. When you download it, you're going to have a few files. You're going to have Crazy Parser. You're going to have some other files, knowndomains.csv and mydomains.csv. And we'll talk about those in a minute. First thing I want to do is show you what's in Crazy Parser that you need to modify. Wow, this is horrible in the size text. Okay, so it talks about dependencies. We see that we've got URL Crazy. Let's see. Is that font a little too big for you guys? Just a little bit. How's that? See that? Okay. So we've got URL Crazy and DNS Twist, and we need to tell the program where these programs live so it knows how to use them. So right underneath the imports are 2 variables, URL Crazy path and DNS Twist path. Just point to where they exist on your system. If you're on Kali, URL Crazy is already correct. Just point to where they're at. And that's all you would need to do to start using the program for modification of this. There are a few command line arguments available. If you run without any arguments, you'll see those. We have things like -c that tells you where the configuration directory is, where knowndomains.csv and mydomains live. That's the important thing. It's going to assume to be the directory you're running from unless you tell it they live somewhere else. -O is what file should we save the results in, defaults to results. -D is the directory where you save those results. It's going to assume your directory, your current directory, unless you specify otherwise. And then there's -M, and that allows you to send an email. So if you go and look at Crazy Parser and look for send mail, you'll see in here it tells you that you just need to configure a username, password, and recipient if you're using Gmail. It's already set up to relay through Gmail. You give your username and your application-specific password and put in your recipients, and it'll send an email when it's done. And if there are no new results, it says everything's clear. And if there are new results, it attaches the output file to the email, and now you have a chance to review it. If you're not using Gmail, just go down here to mail server equals and set your mail server appropriately so that you have your internal details for your mail server. And that's all you need to do to use email.
Right.
All right, so there are two other files, right? There's the CSV files, and the first one is mydomains.csv. And that's the domains that you want to monitor for phishing attacks or typo squatting attacks against, right? So it's going to say example.com. So let's say we're monitoring for DerbyCon.com. So we put that in there. Now, if we had another domain that we wanted to monitor, I don't know, you guys binary defense, is that what it is? So let's say binary defense systems. Wow, that's too long.
No, it's just binary defense.
Own company, doesn't even know. Let's pretend it's this, right? So you can put one or more domains in here. You can put as many as you want, one per line. We're just going to do DerbyCon. Okay, so you're also going to have known-domains.csv. Excuse me. And when you first open it up, it says examples.com and www.example.com. This just shows you like how the file works. The first time you run it, though, we're just going to leave it empty. And let's see.
Oh,
I forgot to tell you about two options. So there's DNS twist and URL crazy. And that tells Crazy Parser to use either one program or the other program or both. So all right. So what's going to happen here if the network's working is that Crazy Parser calls both DNS twist and URL crazy. They're going to do what they do with the domain derbycon.com. They're going to do their lookups. They're going to determine what domains are registered and return that information. Crazy Parser deduplicates it so you have one master list, and then it's going to save it in the results file. The reason we cleared out the known domains file is because that's like our whitelist to tell it things we've already seen. So with it empty, everything it sees is new. So it's going to run, it's going to do its lookups, determine what's new, and when we're done, we're going to have a file called results.csv, which will contain any typo squatting domains for derbycon.com that currently exist today. All right. So the question is the demo going to work? We're attempting. How many goats did I kill? I didn't kill any. I did not kill any goats. All right. There's no errors here. So let's look. What's in results.csv? All right. It worked. So now we see that we have a number of domains. Debbycon.com, derbyco.com, derbycoin.com, things like that. So these are all the domains that actually exist that are typo squatting alternatives for derbycon.com. So what we need to do is we need to review these. We need to review these domains, and we need to determine what is their intent, what is their purpose. So what I would do is I would go to each domain and I'd use a non-attributable admin VM or some VM that's outside my network, because if it is a phishing attack, you don't want to tell the people that you're onto them. So use it something that's outside your network. Go start looking at these domains and figure out what do they do. Are they just traditional squatters that are doing advertising? You see that a lot. All kinds of just trying to get people that mistype on the keyboard. Some are going to be legitimate business websites. Derbyco.com is Derby and Company. And some, if you actually had a phishing attack, who knows what it's going to look like, right? It may be blank while they're sitting in prep stage. Maybe they use something like set to mirror the page. And if you go to one of these typo squatting alternatives and it's your site, that's when you know that something bad is about to happen. So you need to now configure Crazy Parser to know about the things that you don't want to know about anymore, basically. And you do that by using this file. You've got domain, comma, reason. You put in a domain and then a comment. And this reason isn't actually important. It's just for you to use however you want. I tend to use valid site and squatter. But you could use, let's say you open up a ticketing system and you record the details about that domain to help you understand why you made a decision. And you record the incident number here. You could do that. Whatever you want to do, just know that Crazy Parser doesn't use it. You just need domain, comma, comment. So I've already classified this. I went and looked and said that DerbyCo is a valid website, derbyco.com. And DerbyCon.net is a squatter site. It's not actually a valid site, we're going to say. But you notice I don't have derbycon.org in here. And the reason is we're pretending that it hasn't been registered yet. It doesn't exist. So once we save this file and we run again using the same arguments, it's going to do its same thing. It's going to call URL crazy. It's going to call DNS twist. They're going to do their lookups, return the results, but this time it's going to look at knowndomains.csv and see, does this entry exist? If it does, that tells Crazy Parser, hey, this is good. We've already seen it. We don't want to know about it anymore. So the only thing that's going to exist when you're done in the results file are domains that didn't exist the last time you ran it and updated your baseline. So you can use this in continuous monitoring mode to sit there and monitor for attacks on your domain. You can run it once a day, maybe run it once an hour. If you use a large number of domains, it takes a while to run. Right now there is a bug that if you run it more often than it takes to continue or to finish executing, it'll clobber its temporary files and never finish executing. So that will be fixed. If I didn't say it already, I would definitely use both DNS twist and URL crazy. DNS twist is still under active development, and it has a ways to go to catch up, but it is getting close. It's very good, and you will find things that the other one didn't find. So now that we're done running, let's look. If this worked, derbycon.org. So that's the only thing in the results file. That means that derbycon.org was registered since the last time we updated our baseline, which means there's probably a phishing attack that's about to happen if this site after analysis isn't just an ad squatter. All right, so you saw the demo, you saw how it works. What do you do afterwards, right? You need to do some preventative measures. I needed a funny cat pick, so every talk has to have one. Block the domains in your web proxy if they're not valid sites. Even if they're just advertising sites, you don't know that they're not going to deliver some kind of malicious ad a week, a month, a year from now. So block it in your proxy. Maybe you want a black hole DNS so no one in your network can get to it. Increase your monitoring. Look for those phishing domains coming in emails, or those typo squatted domains coming in emails, because that means an attack is happening. Oh, hit the wrong button. Here we go. So
There are some drawbacks.
there are some drawbacks here. It works in certain situations and doesn't in others. In the case of wellpoint.com, I wanted to know, would Anthem have seen this attack? And sure enough, URL Crazy detects it. They would have had a warning that this domain was registered. In the case of Prenera, the double N glyph for an M was not detected, but it is now. I submitted a pull request to Marcin, and it's included in DNS twist. Care First was 50-50. The L glyph was detected. The one glyph for an I was not, but I submitted a pull request, and it is in there now.
It will not detect.
It will not detect those hyphenated domains that we're talking about, things like service-paypal.com. It's just not set up to do that. It's not going to protect your external users or customers or people who are outside your network boundary. But you do have some options there too. WIPO, the World Intellectual Property Organization, has something called Universal Domain Name Dispute Resolution Policy that allows you to petition to seize that domain if it's someone that's trying to profit off of your brand, someone that's trying to keep you from trying to steal business from you, whatever it is, or they're attacking you. U.S. Anti-Cyber Squatting Consumer Protection Act is also available. And this link here for ICANN, if you're interested, I'll make it available for you afterwards. tells you how to file legal proceedings and the documentation you need to seize a domain that's typo squatting. So with that, the code's on GitHub. I'm Hardwater Hacker on Twitter. My email address is out here, and the slides will be on my blog, hardwatersec.blogspot.com. You guys have been great. This is my first time speaking at Derby, and you were awesome. And I want to thank you for being here. And are there any questions? Sure.
Yeah, I've got a question. So with things like Vistaprint being a pain in everyone's butt right now, we typically register domains within an hour and fish. Do you have any more generic recommendations for catching things? Say if you have this running on a cron and it's running, every couple hours, do you have any faster detections? We've looked at things like using distance algorithms between two domains, but often you catch everyone's.
Yeah, so the question is, is there any way to find things when domains are registered really fast? This isn't going to work. Things like Anthem, though, that WellPoint domain was registered well ahead of the attack that actually started. They started building their prep. So it's going to catch the ones where they're doing big prep beforehand. But if they register a domain an hour before they start the attack, the only thing you could do is schedule it to run every 15 minutes and hope that you can respond in the remaining 45. And there's one other question. We got 1 minute left.
Oh, man. All right.
I don't drink, man. Sorry.
That's okay. That's fine.
Now, if it was warm Red Bull, I'd totally be on it.
I'll see what I can do.
Actually, it's basically the same question, because we're seeing attacks from domains that are registered like the day of, the day before, and I'm looking for.
Yeah. Again, if you don't have much time, there's not much you can do. It depends on how fast you can respond. If they're preparing out in front, you have a better chance. I am working, however, on a way to do some of these kinds of detection on the wire. I'm hoping to release something for Bro, maybe, some type of Bro signature, and I'm hoping to do a talk on that in the future, so keep an eye out. Think I got to get going here. I'm getting cut, so if you have any questions, I'll be in the hallway outside. But thank you, guys.